Hello there. I'm Dr. Sarah Radabaugh. I am a chiropractor in Worland, Wyoming, and I specialize in helping pregnant moms and women in general, moms especially, and babies and children to lead their best life possible. And one of the things I'm really passionate about is helping women achieve the birth that they want, no matter what that is. That is something I find such great joy from when I, as a chiropractor, am able to assist a woman, whether that's chiropractic care or education and support and resources, to get to where she wants to be, because birth is one of the most incredible things that a woman goes through in her life. I have been blessed to go through that twice myself. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. And one of the things I'm really passionate about because of my own journey is helping women to know that VBAC, or vaginal birth after cesarean, is an option. And sometimes it is the best option. And unfortunately, where we live in rural Wyoming, a lot of women don't even know that it's an option, which is really sad. So, a VBAC, again, is a vaginal birth after cesarean. And unfortunately, there are a lot of myths out there that VBAC is not safe, that you are at risk of a uterine rupture is the biggest myth out there. And when you actually look at the statistics on uterine rupture and other complications, other birth complications in general, you are actually statistically safer typically having a VBAC than you are a second C-section or a subsequent C-section, as it may be. So in Wyoming, you have to really find that out for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself. But that has been one of my great joys in educating moms. My own personal journey, I had a C-section with my daughter 9 years ago, of course unplanned, but and with my son, when I got pregnant with my second child, I was really, really passionate. I did a lot of research on the actual statistics on safety of birth, because what's more important than a safe birth and a good outcome for mommy and baby? And I, at that time, discovered that my best option living in Worland, Wyoming, was a home birth. And frankly, I wasn't comfortable with that at first. It took me a while to come around to that, because I just didn't I didn't think it was safe. And so I did a ton of, again, research myself, that's what I do, on home birth and its safety, and got to know an incredible home birth midwife, Miss Pat Schwager, who is out of Billings, Montana. And it was a slow journey for me, but I came around to really knowing that that was my best option at the time for a VBAC, to achieve the VBAC that I really badly wanted. Because none of the hospitals around me at that time were offering VBAC at all. I would have had to drive to Billings. At that time was the only option for a VBAC if I wanted to do it in the hospital. And that alone, I mean, this is so ridiculous when you really think about it. So I lived in Worland at the time. I lived about a half a mile from our local hospital here, which is a great hospital. But I was able to have a completely legal home birth with a licensed midwife in the state of Wyoming, a half a mile from the hospital, that wouldn't let me do a VBAC in their hospital. That's just crazy to me. If VBAC isn't safe, why could I do that at home? And so, and as we transition here, one of the reasons I'm really passionate about educating moms about VBAC is because that birth experience changed my life. I think that we are robbing women of this incredible experience, which is a vaginal birth, especially a VBAC, by not letting them know that that's an option. That my VBAC was, I mean, just a pivotal moment in my life. Everything that's come after that, I have drawn courage from my birth experience. I've known, I got through that, I can do anything, basically. It was incredibly empowering. It was hard. It was childbirth. It was especially hard. And so he was 10 pounds, 5 ounces. I got to mention that. because they told me after my daughter was born by C-section that she was just too big because she was 9 pounds, 15 ounces. And I went on to have a 10-pound, 5-ounce baby at home, which it was incredible, just an incredible experience. And childbirth in general can be an incredible, empowering, life-changing moment for women. And I think we're robbing them of that by not being supportive of VBAC, which we are definitely not in Wyoming. So some tips if you are exploring a VBAC. You need to ask your birth provider what their C-section rate is and get some serious numbers, because many providers in this area have a really high C-section rate. I should have looked up the numbers on this before the video, but I believe the World Health Organization says anything over a 30% C-section rate shouldn't happen in general, worldwide, and the United States is way above that. In fact, it might even be lower than that, but I know the United States has a much higher C-section rate than is recommended by the World Health Organization, and Wyoming in general is much higher. I know that some hospitals in Wyoming are upwards of 50% C-section rate. So find out what your birth provider's C-section rate is. If you want a VBAC around here, you almost need to arm yourself and advocate for yourself. Do the research, look up the statistics. I'm going to post my favorite books and websites that were helpful for me in preparing for my VBAC in the comments here after the video. And so then talking about how I help women as a provider, as a chiropractor, when they're looking to achieve a VBAC. One of the myths that we have just in general is that the pelvis is a solid ring that doesn't move. And that is so not true. The pelvis, especially in late pregnancy, is incredibly mobile, and it changes with your position. You know, for instance, when you lie down in a hospital bed, for instance, on your back, your pelvis, the outlet for the hole for the baby to exit through is much smaller than it is if you're squatting. If you're upright in a squatting position, the opening for your pelvis is much bigger. So as a chiropractor, my job is to make sure that your pelvis is as ready as we can possibly get it for a normal, healthy birth experience. And so gentle chiropractic adjustments help to maximize the alignment and the function of your pelvis and your whole body, so that your body is in the very best shape possible for any birth, and a VBAC especially. It is so sad to me how many women I've been in practice 11 years now, and this happens all the time, where a woman comes in and tells me, oh, she's preparing for maybe her second birth or subsequent birth, and she was either just told she had to have a C-section and not given any other options at all, or told that her pelvis was too small, or the baby was too big, or things like that you really don't know for sure. Unless you have exhausted other options. I can't tell you how incredible the care I received from my midwife was. She was incredibly skilled in having me do different things, change position, all kinds of things that aided my birth process and helped to open up that pelvis and make the most room possible. And she was incredibly patient with the whole process. I also believe that we rush birth way too much in this country, and when we force things like induction and with chemicals and things like that, you're just statistically at greater risk of more complications, and definitely of a risk of a C-section. Looking back at my C-section, I can't change anything, and I'm grateful for all the experiences that brought me where I am today. But looking back, what I was not told as I was 41 weeks and a couple of days, I think, pregnant, and I did consent to induction, I didn't realize somehow in my hormonal fog that if they induce you and nothing happens, like it doesn't work, they don't just send you home. You get a C-section. At that point, sometimes the baby's in distress and etc., and they don't just send you home. If it doesn't work, if the induction isn't successful, you get a C-section. And so I am incredibly passionate, obviously, about this topic, and I would love to help you in any way possible. If you know a mom who needs to know this information, or if you know somebody who could benefit from chiropractic care during their pregnancy, please let them know. Please post any comments, questions, maybe your own experiences in the comments. I would just love to hear them. So thanks for watching.